Dear students, we will continue our previous lecture of medical diagnostics. So, due to some unavoidable circumstances, in our last lecture, the lecture was interrupted. Now, we will continue the previous topic again. So, last time we have seen the shape and the size of the cells. It was discoidal and biconvex and non-nucleated in human, whereas only camel and llama possesses oval nucleus, whereas it has nucleus in the RBCs of camel. This is the only option, or only we can say peculiar characteristics, whereas the number is RBCs per microliter is about 10 raised to minus 6 of the blood, and it is termed as total count of RBC. Normal man contains about 5 million RBCs per cubic millimeter, whereas a normal woman contains about 4.5 million RBCs per cubic millimeter of the blood. So it is due to the fact that the woman undergoes menstruation and other physiological activities. So RBCs in our body increases during muscular exercise and decreases due to some unavoided or abnormal activities or diseased conditions, and decrease in number of RBC is called as erythrocytopenia. So formation of erythrocytes is called as erythropoiesis, the formation of RBCs. And in early few weeks of embryonic life, primitive unnucleated RBCs are produced in the yolk sac. This is about the embryonic condition. So RBCs are mainly produced by liver and spleen cells. In large embryonic stage, RBCs are mainly produced by liver and spleen, but some are also produced by bone marrow. So hemocytoblast in a red bone marrow gives rise to mature RBCs. So iron and proteins are necessary raw materials, and hemoglobin is a protein content of the blood. So the average lifespan of erythrocyte is about 120 days. After that, they broken down, and its broken pieces are also called as platelets, or they are useful in coagulation of the blood when injury appears there to the human body. So vitamin B12 and folic acid stimulate the maturation of RBCs. So comparison of erythrocytes of different vertebrates: fish are A, amphibians the figure B, birds the figure C, and human being. So these are completely oval and rounded RBCs in human being, whereas discoided or ellipsoid in birds. The same in amphibians, but these are quite larger and having a nucleus also. This one is the nucleus here. And in a fish, the cells are also discoidal and medium shaped with nucleus. So these are the common and comparatively comparatively differences that we are going to discuss here. So lifespan of RBC is about 120 days in human being, and hemoglobin is one of the conjugated protein which take part in carrying oxygen to the body from lungs. Then RBCs perform various functions in human body. Number one, transport of oxygen. It carries oxygen from lungs to the tissues in the using the media blood, and it forms a oxyhemoglobin combining with blood. Then transport of CO2. Whenever oxygen is utilized by the cells or tissues, they release carbon dioxide. The same is carried out by RBCs to the lungs again, and NH2 group is joined to the hemoglobin as oxyhemoglobin is formed while going to the tissues, and while coming back with nitrogenous waste, it carries NH2. So maintenance of pH of the blood is also regulated by blood by buffering. Acidity of blood results hemoglobin to carry less oxygen. So human blood corpuscles, erythrocytes, from side view it shows like a spindle and quite compressed at the center. This is the surface view. Agranulocytes are of two types, lymphocytes and monocytes. Lymphocytes are smaller and monocytes are larger. Whereas lymphocytes has a large bulgy nucleus and cytoplasm is very less. Whereas in monocyte, nucleus is bulgy but it is compressed at one side and having a great space to the cytoplasm. In granulocytes, there are three types of cells: eosinophil, basophil, and neutrophil. So these have two lobes of the nucleus. Then here is a S discoidal shaped nucleus, and here dumbbell shaped nucleus. So eosinophils have bilobed nucleus. Basophils have S shaped or sigmoid shaped lobulated nucleus, and whereas in neutrophil it is a dumbbell shaped nucleus. Whereas the platelets are irregularly broken pieces. The elements of blood. The elements of blood generally compose of the matrix, or we call it as a plasma, in which the cells are dissolved or involved. The platelets are very minor and they are randomly scattered. Then RBCs are in tremendous numbers, about 41%, and plasma is about 55%. So platelets have very less percent, 0.01%. Then white blood cells have about 4%. They are very rare but very important, performing the functions of defense. So lymphocytes, basophils, eosinophils, monocyte and neutrophil, that we have already studied the structure. So the percentage average in blood stream is shown by a diagram. So leukocytes or white cells do not possess hemoglobin, but they have number of uh, nucleus in the form of lobules and perform a very good function of defense. So abnormal increase in WBC causes leukemia or blood cancer. Then WBC count is called as leukopenia. Leukocyte count means detecting the number of different kinds of leukocytes, abbreviated as DLC. And normal low TLC is in a viral infection, malaria, typhoid, TB, likewise. So in DLC, adults, so normal neutrophils percentage are 40 to 70%, lymphocytes 20 to 40%, monocyte 2 to 10%, eosinophil 1 to 6%, and basophils 0 to 1%. The shape of leukocytes are rounded or irregular in shape, like amoeba, and also shows amoeboid movement. This enables them to squeeze out the blood capillaries into the tissues, and this process is called as diapedesis. So size of WBC is about 12 to 20 micrometer, and they are colorless. Then all leukocytes consist of cell membranes, nucleus, and cytoplasm. And cytoplasm contains cytoplasmic organelles like mitochondria, Golgi apparatus, centrioles, etc. The leukocytes are of two main types: agranulocytes. They are containing lymphocytes and monocytes. Lymphocytes are larger and non-phagocytic, whereas monocytes are the largest and amoeboid in movement. They are bean-shaped nucleus. They are showing bean-shaped nucleus, and they are phagocytizing, means they engulf bacteria and cell debris. The granulocytes are of three types: eosinophil, basophil, and neutrophils. So eosinophils are stained very well by eosin stain, therefore they are called as eosinophils, and it is two-lobed. They help in dissolving the blood clot, and they have lysosome similarity with lysosomes. So they are acidic in nature, or pick acidic stains and therefore also called as acidophils. So basophils is usually three-lobed and have least counting among the leukocytes. Then they have coarse granules and stained by methylene blue mostly. They are probably like mast cells of the connective tissues. And neutrophils are well stained by neutral stains or weak stains and are most numerous of all leukocytes. So the nucleus is many-lobed or many-lobular, therefore called a drumstick or sex chromatin or bar body. Bar is the name of the scientist and drumstick is formed by transformation of an X chromosome. They eat harmful germ and are rare, therefore phagocytic in nature. So formation of leukocytes is called as leukocytosis or leukopoiesis. Lymphocytes are produced mainly in lymph nodes, spleen, thymus, tonsils and bone marrow, and also in Peyer's patches of the small intestine. So lifespan of these granulocytes is about 4 to 5 days or 4 to 8 hours in circulating blood and 4 to 5 days in the tissues. Then the monocytes have a very short lifespan of about 10 to 20 hours. So ratio of RBC to WBC is about 700 to 1. Thrombocytes, these are mammalian blood platelets and they are about 250,000 in a cubic millimeter. So they help in coagulation of the blood. Blood platelets are really a cell fragments rather than true cells. So they are rounded or oval. Its size ranges from 2 to 3 micrometers. They are colorless and their structure is non-nucleated and flat. They are simply a bit of protoplasm bounded by a membrane. They have a group of basophilic granules in it. These are formed from megakaryocytes, means very large cells of the bone marrow, and its lifespan is about a week. They cannot live for more than a week. Functions of the cells includes they release the chemicals called as platelet factors or thromboplastin, which helps in coagulation or clotting of the blood. Then hemopoiesis. Hemopoiesis is the process of formation of blood cells and the tissues which form blood corpuscles are termed as hemopoietic tissues. So the RBCs in man and woman are about 5 to 4.5 million in number. They look yellow and seen singly in RBCs or red singly in red color. Its lifespan is 120 days and they perform the function of transport of O2 and CO2 that we have already studied. Then leukocytes are about 5,000 to 10,000 per cubic millimeter. In a normal man, they are colorless, form in bone marrow, lymph nodes, spleen, thymus, tonsils, and Peyer's patches, and acts as soldiers or scavengers and help the body by healing. Then agranulocytes, these are lymphocytes are large, rounded, and motile, formed in lymph nodes, and they are phagocytic in nature. They are non-phagocytic in nature, whereas monocytes are phagocytic in nature, formed in bone marrow, and they are largest cell types of the formed in the granulocytes. Granulocytes. Whereas in granulocytes, cytoplasm has granules and nucleus is lobed. For example, eosinophils, it is binucleated, formed in bone marrow and non-phagocytic in function, whereas basophils are three-lobed structure, formed in bone marrow and releases heparin and histamine. These two are anticoagulants, and they help to help the blood to clot in the body system. Neutrophils are many-lobed, generally shows drumstick, formed in bone marrow, and they are phagocytic in nature, and they engulf the germ cells, bacteria, dead body cells, etc. So platelets are 2 lakh and 50,000 per cubic millimeter. They are colorless, rounded, formed in bone marrow, and they are fragments of the RBCs, and they help in blood clotting. Now we will see overall the functions of blood. We have seen in detail the blood cells, blood plasma, blood corpuscles, etc. Now the total function of blood is transport of food material, transport of respiratory gases, transport of hormones, transport of excretory matter, transport of heat, defense against infection. They also regulate temperature of the body and water balance. They maintain pH of the body and prevent the body from excess loss of blood. They help in healing and maintains physiological cooperation of the body. So lymph is a motile connective tissue. Lymph is the second important part. It is a motile and comprising lymph or plasma, generally called as plasma fluid or lymph corpuscles. So lymph plasma is similar to that of the blood. It has globulin proteins, and components includes lymph plasma. They are very much like the blood plasma and contains organic substances and water. Whereas lymph corpuscles are floating amoeboid cells, or we can call it as a white cells, or we can call it as lymphocytes, erythrocytes. These are lymphoid organs which form the cells or secrete these lymph cells, and the lymph nodes, tonsils, thymus gland, Peyer's patches also produce these cells in the body, and the main function is to protect the body, to give the protection to the body. So next one will be studied in the next speech. We will concise our speech here.